Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Kostya.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 266 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Kostya. I'm joined as ever by the former heavyweight world title challenger. One of my dear good friends is of course Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. How you?
Very good when speaking with you. Diving straight into the review part because there's a long interview, a long in-depth interview right at the back of the show. The way I'm going to do things this week is I'm going to do the review part, then the news, then the preview part, then we're going to sign the show out with this in-depth interview with former light-welterweight world champion Mr. Sharmba Mitchell. It's a big interview, a guy of course that had a really good career, boxed so many top fighters along the way, so it's a great listen. But yeah, like I say, before we get into that, that's at the very end. We're going to dive into the review part here. There's going to be the Eddie Chambers trivia question at some point as well, but no review and preview, no lockdown knockdown this week. It will be perhaps next week. Anyway, with no further ado, let's start here at the BT Sports Studio last Friday the 13th, in Stratford, London, United Kingdom. Starting with the main event, I'm gonna start with here. Mark Heffron, 25-1 with a draw, going in against Denzel Bentley, 13-0 with a draw. Like I say, both guys shared a draw last time out, and it was a unanimous draw, which you do not see at all in boxing. Such a rarity. Anyway, here, Mark Heffron retired on his store after 4 rounds. Denzel Bentley, who I feel like the majority of people thought won the first fight, started great here, managed to cause swelling on Mark Heffron's left eye, and yeah, his eye was closing up real rapidly, pretty much from the second round, so he couldn't carry on. He didn't come out for round 5. Mark Heffron now 25-2 with a draw. Hasn't had loads and loads of luck, to be honest, Heffron. Still a good fighter. I'd still like to see him with, some of the bigger names domestically, but Denzel Bentley keeps marching on, 14-0 with a draw. He's the new British middleweight champion, so that's a plus for him. Really good fighter, man. He's got a bright future for sure. Also on the undercard, we had Kalmin Agyarko, now 8-0, a TKO for him in 7 rounds against Robbie Chapman, who's now 6-6, and Tommy Fury. He returned with a win here, 4-0, first fight since last December. He got in there with a guy who was 0-11, never had won a fight. But anyway, the guy was down in the second round and out. TKO in the second for Tommy Fury. He actually looked really good, to be honest with you. Usually I watch these fights when you see an up-and-coming prospect with, relatively no amateur experience, to be honest. You see him in with these low-level guys when they're starting off, and you can't really read into it too much, but to be honest, he really impressed me, Tommy Fury. The shot selection was, for me, most impressive. He was able to find some excellent shots, actually. And, going from head to body and all the rest of it, with both hands. It was a really, really mature kind of display from him. And an absolutely brilliant knockout in the end. I think it was... I can't remember if it was a left or right uppercut, but either way, brilliant finish. A brilliant shot selection again to pick that one out. It was really impressive from him. A lot to come, of course. Moving out now to Wembley Arena. This one again on Saturday the 14th. It was the women's triple world title fight card. On Sky Sports, and I think they even had it for free on YouTube and stuff like that. But anyways, Topping the bill, Katie Taylor, now 17-0, a unanimous decision for her over 10 2-minute rounds against the Spaniard Miriam Gutierrez. Pretty much a shutout for Katie Taylor. A defence there of her WBC, WBA, IBF and WBO World Female Lightweight titles. Gutierrez was down in the 4th round. Katie Taylor now has received a Ring Magazine women's belt, so that's big for her. She's also been instated as the #1 pound-for-pound women's fighter in all of boxing, above Clarissa Shields, who's in 2nd place with the Ring's rankings. So Katie Taylor making history there. They're talking about her potential next fights. Everyone wants to see the I say all British. God, I almost did an Eddie Hearn mistake there. Katie Taylor being Irish, not British. But, everyone wants to see that showdown with Chantel Cameron. They're talking about other fights for her, though, like perhaps taking on, I don't even know what this girl's first name is, but Cyborg from the UFC or whatever. I don't want to see any crossover fight, especially in women's boxing. But she's a good fighter, Katie Taylor, of course, taking nothing away from her. But she was in with another girl who was levels below her, so it's not always entertaining watching her because of that, to be honest, but it is what it is. Terry Harper, she defended her WBC and IBO super featherweight world titles against Katarina Fanders. A TKO for Harper in 9 rounds. Very impressive as well, because this Fanders was very confident going in. Quite a good good outing there for Harper, who I think didn't really look her best against Natasha Jonas, but she's had a quick turnaround. She was back out here against an undefeated lady, and she did the business. So I'm pleased with that. 11-0 now with that one draw. Also on the card, Rachel Ball, 6-1. She was supposed to take on Ebony Bridges, but the late replacement Jorgelina Guarnini, she actually failed to make the weight, so that was quite disappointing straight away. But anyway, it was for the interim WBC female super bantamweight title. Rachel Ball now 7-1. Hotly disputed though, a unanimous decision in the end over 10 2-minute rounds, very wide as well on the cards. I think 9 rounds to 1. But a lot of people actually felt that Guarnini should have been the champion there. So yeah. Not very impressive from Rachel Ball. Hopefully we get to see that rematch between her and Shannon Courtney, or perhaps Shannon Courtney against Ebony Bridges. Bring that on. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. Also on the card we had Jack Cullen. He was supposed to originally, I believe, be taking on Jamie Cox. Jamie Cox pulled out. In stepped the undefeated John Doherty, Southpaw, 9-0. Heard lots of good things about him in sparring, stuff like that. He was a good amateur, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Jack Cullen was just a little bit too good. Jack Cullen was actually down in the 1st round, though. He got up off the deck. His experience came through in the end, and he won a very deserved 10-round unanimous decision. He's now 19-2 with a draw. John Doherty 9-1. Hopefully we get to see the rematch. Maybe Doherty needs a bit more time, but it was a great fight, and I was really pleased with the way that Jack Cullen boxed. I mean, like I say, you cannot buy experience, and it really showed. Cash Farouk with a win as well. He's now 14-1, a unanimous decision win over 10 rounds against Angel Aviles, who's now 20-6. That one was for the vacant WBA Continental Bantamweight title. Aviles failed to make the weight, so 2 fights on that card where the opponents failed to make the weight. Anyway, moving out now stateside. This is a conversation that you can get involved in, Eddie, at the Bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas. Let's start with the undercard, though. Bad luck again. It's double trouble for Joshua Greer Jr., a guy that's been on the show before. We spoke about it last week. Very charismatic guy. He used to bring the pillow to the weigh-in. He's kind of stopped doing that now, I believe. But anyway, he got in there against Edwin Rodriguez, not the real Edwin Rodriguez. But anyway, Edwin Rodriguez here, 11-5 with a draw. Took on Joshua Greer, 22-2 with a draw. And like I say, Joshua Greer lost last time out in the bubble, and that's why I say double trouble in the bubble for him, because he got a majority draw over 8 rounds. A lot of people felt that Rodriguez deserved the win. Adelaide Bird scored it to Rodriguez, and then Max DeLuca and John McKay gave it 76-76 over 8 rounds there. So Joshua Greer Jr., like I say, not quite sure what's going on with him. It seems like perhaps he's found his level, or perhaps he's just going for a sticky patch. One interesting thing was that he hired Shakur Stevenson to be one of his cornermen, which was quite cool, actually, seeing the pair together. Obviously, both, young, top-ranked prospects. But, yeah, even with Shakur in his corner, he couldn't get the win. And now let's go to the co-main event. Joshua Franco, 17-1 with 2 draws against Andrew Maloney, 21-1. It was for the WBA Super Flyweight World Title, an instant rematch there between the pair. The first fight, obviously, Andrew lost the belt to Franco. And the second fight, boy, oh boy, the controversy that surrounded this fight is unbelievable. Eddie, I know you saw the main event. Did you get to see this fight? You saw this as well. Tell me about this from your perspective. It's got to be one of the most craziest things you've ever seen. Unbelievable.
I think it was horrible, man, to be honest, man. There's the replay is there for a reason, and it should be utilized, so they used it. But then not to get the thing right in that regard, and after you've used it, after you've looked at it several times, to keep saying that there was a headbutt. And I was like, damn, I don't really remember seeing like a serious headbutt. And like when they stopped it, and he was saying it was from a headbutt. So I'm like, maybe I guess it was, right? Then they go back to the replay, and they're skimming through the replay, constantly going to different parts. Not one time did his head go on that side of his head. I mean, on that side of his face to bump his eye. But then you've seen, like, I don't know how many clear jabs land on the eye. And you could see the swelling after that one major jab, one of the first ones that they showed. And I'm sitting there like, how can you not see that? Like, I'm sitting there like, you just put these dudes both just trained. Now, I get, for the other guys, good. But this guy lost his title, went back home, trained his ass off to get back there, got in phenomenal shape, came in there and was ready to fight. And you could see from the moment, from the word go, he was on it. He was throwing jab after jab combination. He was going to smoke this dude. It looked like he was going to smoke him, to be honest. His eyes swelled shut, boom. So you figure, he's about to get the win. And they come back with this whole bullcrap about a headbutt. And I remember when I heard the I think it was Raul Kais, or what was his name? I can't remember who the ref was. But anyway, Russell Moore. There you go, my fault. Wrong guy. Raul Kais, the older guy. But anyway, and I'm sitting there looking, I heard him say headbutt, and I'm like, damn, I don't remember the headbutt. But I was like, all right, whatever. He know more than me. He was there. I was looking at the replay, and they couldn't find it. The only time they found like a headbutt that kind of could have happened was on the other side. It was on the other side of his face. Had nothing to do with his eye that swelled shut. And they still gave it a majority not a majority draw, I was going to say. They still called it a no contest. I said, how can you do that to somebody? Like, that's just so messed up. And then just, we was a headbutt. It's clearly a headbutt. Then I seen somebody on Instagram put that. And I'm like, dude, he headbutted him on the other side of his face. Even in the thing that the guy on Instagram showed the replay proved the point that it wasn't a headbutt on that side. It's just unreal, man. This sport, I guess combat sports in general, but this sport in particular, man, it has so many times gotten the answer wrong. It's just so unfair to people, man. Like, people get bad decisions all the time. They get things like that to happen to them, and then there's no repercussions. There's bad judging, bad scorecards, and then there's nothing. There's nothing that can be done about it. Like, nobody says anything. Everybody just let it go and just sweep it under the rug. It's just like, man, something needs to be done. That's wrong. Like, that kid got to go back home, and like, now he's gonna be depressed. Now what happens if he goes out there and fights him again? He might not even have the right mindset now. You know what I'm saying? It's just unfortunate, man. This kind of stuff happens in this sport. It really is.
Yeah, another black eye for boxing. I've got a lot to say on it. It just seems to me that only in boxing will you see the officials spend more time trying to get a decision right than the actual time elapsed in the entire fight itself. Because this actually took 27 minutes to end up getting wrong anyway. Just going through again what you said, he's gone back to Australia, started preparing again, and then he's back in Las Vegas. It's a long old way, and it wasn't long ago that they had that fight. I actually, when it first got announced that they were going to be having an immediate rematch, I was kind of against it. I was thinking, oh man, because the way the first fight went, Maloney started off really good, just like he did here, and then he seemed to just stop fighting cleverly, and he kind of started to fight Franco's fight, and Franco for me was the clear winner. But yeah, I wasn't all for it, to be honest. And then he comes back. He had to come back 2 weeks before the fight. A bit before that actually. He came back 2 weeks before. Because you'd have to get there and acclimatise and all the rest of that, but his brother fought in the same venue 2 weeks before that, and his brother got knocked out by Inoue, so he was probably there a month early or something like that, and I don't know how long he would have spent in Australia in between coming back to the States. It's been real messy. But anyway, the fight itself, you're right, Eddie. Maloney started really good. He was straight on his boxing right away. Everything was behind the jab, much like the first fight. Like I mentioned, he was boxing smartly early on. Franco couldn't do anything with him in that first round. Maloney, I felt, was a bit more aggressive than I had predicted, but he clearly won the round, and he kept Franco quiet. Franco spent most of his time with his hands up, blocking shots. Andrew's left hook to the body was a peach of a shot. He landed it time and time again. He swelled up the eye of Franco, like we say. Russell Morris said it was a head clash. Replays showed it wasn't. I liked how Maloney was stepping in and out as well. He wasn't staying in the pocket for too long, not kind of getting drawn into a fight like he did last time. Round two, again, a round for Maloney. He really started to establish the jab. Franco was getting hit way more often than usual. Franco really seemed to be stuck in his shell, and Maloney was just fully focused on the task at hand. He seemed to be a man on a mission. He obviously, was desperate to get his title back, and then the fight gets stopped at the start of round three. Russell Morris straight away says it's a no decision. In the opposite corner, Maloney's jumping on the top rope, celebrating, obviously not knowing what's going on. It was done like that because 4 rounds hadn't been completed, and obviously if there's an accident before that and 4 rounds aren't completed, then it will be a no contest. But it wasn't an accident. Replay showed it wasn't. You had Tim Bradley and Andre Ward going crazy, which was good. It was very good to show their passion there. 27 minutes it took. Robert Burb was the video referee. It was just horrible because Maloney, I think, should be champion based off of that. But again, there's no telling what would have happened in round 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It could have been exactly like the first fight. Maloney started great in the first fight, like I say. So we only got to see 2 rounds, 2 completed rounds. So it's hard to base, he was on his way to win and all that. It's really difficult, especially if you saw the first fight. It could have just gone exactly the same way, as a lot of the time rematches do. But yeah, it was just... it was shocking in the end. He was kind of robbed in some ways, and I feel for him a lot. He was on the show before the first fight, and I've tried to get him on since the fight's finished. I'm going to hopefully get him on next week. We shall see. But I've heard he's going to try and appeal the decision, but I'm not even sure who he can appeal it to because the commission were there, weren't they? You had is it Bob Bennett, I think, was there. And they saw everything. They spent 27 minutes. I mean, what's the point in appealing it? Unless perhaps he's going to appeal to the governing body, the WBA. Maybe they can do something. I don't know. But go on.
It's like this, Joe. One thing. It's like this. If you appeal that, something changes, which would be great for him. It would be great for boxing, really, in a sense. But then what about all the other times that decisions have happened that people contested and nothing happened because of all the other ones that came before it? If you contest one and you succeed, unless it's something that was completely blatant and you could easily see it, even though this was kind of easy to see too, that you can then, overturn something. Because I've only heard of it happening one time. They're going to have to go back and review everything that's happened in the past, because then there's going to be other people like, well, what about my fight? What about when this happened? Or what about when that happened? And then it becomes a big ordeal. You understand what I'm saying? So what's going to end up happening, and this is a bad situation for him, and I'm hurting for him, but it's going to get swept under the rug just like it was, just like everything else, and they're going to fight again. That's all that's going to happen.
It probably will get swept under the rug, but I've heard, and the reason why I don't think it happens too much, because there is a lot of things that we feel were unfair. As you said, this has happened in boxing so many times, just they got it wrong again. I've heard that it can cost about 10 grand to get something reviewed at least. So, maybe a lot of guys don't want to pay 10 grand to get it reviewed, We don't usually hear about what happens outside of the ring with stuff like that, but
and then it gets reviewed and nothing happens.
Yeah, perhaps.
So you spent $10,000 for nothing.
Exactly. It's a risk. It's a gamble. But yeah, getting on to the main event now. Terence Crawford now 37-0. And by the way, actually, before we get onto that, I haven't watched any interviews, but I read somewhere that Bob Arum is hoping to stage a third fight. Apparently, Franco does want the third fight, so I'm pleased with that. I mean, credit to him. I think this is his way out if he did want one. They're talking about a potential third fight in Australia. That would really be different there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we shall see. Yeah. We shall see. But anyway, the main event, Terence Crawford now 37-0. A TKO in the fourth round against Britain's Kell Brook, now 39-3 for the WBO welterweight world title. Kell Brook, he was winning on two of the cards. That's pretty much how I saw it as well. I gave him the first two, and I gave Crawford round 3, and then obviously, Brook fell to pieces in round 4. It seemed to happen very quickly. But running through the rounds, first round, both guys were really just having a look. Brook, for me, out-jabbed Crawford. At times, it was like a game of fencing. Brook was landing his jab. Crawford was falling short by a couple of centimetres because Brook would take that step back. Then he'd step back in, land another jab, and step back out again. It was clever stuff. There weren't too much in the first round, really, but Brook, for me, won it. Round 2, for me, a clear Brook round. He was looking really relaxed in there. He was trying lead right hands, which we don't always see him do, but he's got every punch in the book, Brook. Still jabbing nicely at that point. Bud then moved into southpaw for that round there, and, he boxed as orthodox in the first round. A close round again, but for me, Brook shaded it, even though I just said he won it clear, but actually looking back, he shaded that second one. Round 3, a better round from Crawford. Kell was being caught a bit more often. Kell was also getting off with some nice right hands of his own, but Crawford, for me, had a lot of success since switching to southpaw. And then round 4, of course, the stoppage for me kind of came out of nowhere. The first punch that got through and dropped him. Brook got knocked into the ropes after walking into a solid jab it was, and he fell back into the ropes. Crawford, chased him to the ropes, landed a few shots while he was kind of in between the ropes. Tony Weeks jumped in and gave Kell a count. And then, when the count was up and the boxing continued, Crawford went in for the kill. He landed some long hooks, really, with both hands. It was a bit wild to finish it, and that was it. Tony Weeks jumped in. Kell looked dazed. It all just seemed, like I say, to happen so fast. I was really shocked. It really did take me by surprise. I picked Crawford for the late stoppage, but I couldn't see it happening within 4 rounds. So it has happened within 4 rounds, and I've got nothing really else to say apart from it was a real impressive win for Crawford. It's a big name, and it's probably going to be one of his most impressive wins because no one's ever done that to Brook, as he said himself, in sparring or in a fight. He's never been counted out like that.
I mean, I actually saw him. He was in shape. I remember you sent me the message, and I was like, I didn't get the chance to message you back right away, but I was impressed with his level of focus and where it seemed like he was, and even in the locker room, you can kind of see he was a little antsy, a little bit, a little busy, moving around a little too much, which kind of insinuated he might have been a little nervous, a little excited. But when he got into the ring, I mean, he was sharp, and he was jabbing really nice. His timing was excellent. You know what I mean? I felt like, damn, man, this guy, it really reminds you of how good he can be. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just look at the amount of ability and the things that he can do in there, even with a guy like Crawford. Now, we know Crawford starts a little slow at times, but to be able to be like a step ahead with the timing and quick how quick the jab was coming off was real good, really really good early. And I was like, damn man, he might have Crawford a little bit. He gonna give Crawford some work tonight. And then all of a sudden in the third round, I seen it after the first round. Well, Crawford kind of stepped into the southpaw stance and threw a couple shots, and it looked like he had him kind of on his back, on his heel a little bit. So it kind of seemed like he was kind of a little, thrown for a little bit with the southpaw. And then so once he actually came back to it, he kind of took away Kell's jab, which was really what was the difference maker early in the fight. And I didn't want to say he completely took it away, but he definitely made it a more difficult angle for his jab to land perfectly in that position. So, when he started throwing this nice chopping like jab over the top, which ended up being the shot that actually stopped his momentum and actually hurt him and almost got him out of it. It was like a weird shot. I think it was just the angle of it and how he was throwing and moving into the punch at the same time is what really hurt him. But it also made me worry a little bit for him because it's like, damn, man, I'm not going to say it seemed like a nothing shot because people remember me getting hit by that Vladimir Klitschko shot, and it was like, man, that didn't look like it was much. But it obviously did the job. So in this case, seeing that happened, it started making me think. He got hit like in the eye area around the temple, and I'm like, yo, that's where all of the injuries were. And it kind of made you think like, maybe he needs to stop. You know what I mean? Just thinking about his health and well-being after his career's over. Do you want to keep taking punishment, even if it's not a lot? You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. But as far as the fight went, it just showing, like how good of a fighter Terrence Crawford is. But to be able to beat a guy like Kell, even in the position that he was in, like he was really ready to win that fight. Like it really impressed me how he came into the fight. But what goes up must come down, and and as fast as he took control, or it looked like he had control early, is as quick as he lost it. And but I guess that's why Crawford is Crawford.
Yeah, definitely. It was sad to see from a British standpoint because Kell, man, he just hasn't had the career I think he could have had, man. He didn't have the fights he should have had, I think, and it's a shame because I honestly think he could have perhaps gone down. It's going to sound crazy now because now definitely not, but if he could have gone down as a Hall of Famer by the end of it, he was that good. I honestly think, man, he was so good.
Listen, if he doesn't fight Triple G, and that's the only fight I'm saying. If it doesn't happen, if he doesn't fight Triple G, then that happens.
Yeah,
if he'd have stayed away from that particular fight, thinking with your nuts and not thinking with your brain, pause. You have to think things through. And I wish I would have done the same thing. I'll fight him. You know what I mean? I'll fight him. I don't care. I can beat him. I'm better. You know what I mean? Skill wise, I should be able to go in there and take care of him. I'm a bigger guy anyway. I'm a big guy anyway. But you're not comfortable with what he had to offer, and then you go up in there and you get damaged. Now you come back down, you fight Earl Spence, and you get damaged in that fight too. Those two fights basically slowed your career or cut almost to a halt. You know what I mean? Then you're like, oh, nobody thinks Kell is what he was once those two fights happened. Now what? Did it look like a smart move then? I know it's money. I know it's an opportunity, but what happens if this happened? Now look at your career. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. I mean, like I say, he showed signs of not being as good as what he was in his last few fights, and then it's kind of difficult to read into it. I mean, he definitely won for me the first 2 rounds, and what really is that? You're winning 2. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but I'm just saying he's won 2 rounds. He looked good for 2 rounds, and he gets stopped in 4. Should he call it a day? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's difficult, man. But anyways, leaving it there. It's a shame for Kell, but it's a brilliant win for Terrence. Again, my pound for pound number 1. Just another reason why he deserves that placement in my list anyway. But that's it though for the review part. Just before we we're just going to run straight through. Actually, let's go on to the news now. Matchroom have signed a lady called Sharmba Mitchell. I think I'm probably saying it wrong, but anyway, this lady is the undefeated WBA super featherweight world champion. It's some kind of multi-fight promotional deal. It's interesting because she actually won a world title on her debut, which certainly doesn't happen too often. But it's a signing that no one expected to happen. It's a bit of a weird one, really. Joshua Franco, right after he had that controversial no contest with Andrew Maloney, he's been signed, to MTK Global, so that's really interesting. And also MTK Global have snapped up another young undefeated prospect, Hector Tanahara, friend of the show, Hector Tanahara. So not surprised with that at all, because him and Joshua Franco are pretty good friends. I think they train out at the same gym, if I'm not mistaken. In other news, we've had a fight announced for December the 11th. It's going to be on the... I thought it was on an undercard, actually. I thought it was on the Craig Richards and Shakan Pitter's undercard. Maybe not. Anyway, it's going to be on the on December the 11th, like I say. It's going to be free to air on Channel 5, a TV network that you've fought on before, Eddie, when you were over here. And, we're going to get to see Sam Eggington take on Ashley Theophane. That'll be quite interesting there. Ashley Theophane, I think, is only looking to have the one last fight, and then that's going to be it. I think he's going to retire. So, yeah, that's a tough fight to take. We shall see how that one plays out. December the 12th, the very next day, Shakur Stevenson steps in at kind of late notice, really, to take on Toka Khan Clary. That one is at featherweight, that one. Sorry, not at featherweight, at super featherweight. So, that'll be interesting there. You've also got Felix Verdejo on that card against Masayoshi Nakatani. And Edgar Berlanga, the guy that knocks everyone out in one round, he is also on that card. Dave Allen has decided to retire, Eddie. That's obviously, that hits close to home for you. Obviously, he's a good friend of yours, but... do you want to give us a word on his retirement?
No, you know what? I've always said Dave has so much more ability than he showed, during his career. But Dave always wanted to do things, I guess, the easy or the hard way, or whatever way you look at it, depending on who you are. But I mean, it's good. You know what I mean? I'd rather him get out of it, before he actually starts to talk, before you can't understand him. You know what I'm saying? And being a guy who's tough, who takes punishment and gives punishment and all that is great when they're fighting and when they're on top and when they're young. But once they start to get older, you start to see the effects of it. And him being a friend of mine, I don't want to see that from him. I don't want that kind of thing to be that. I don't want that to be his legacy, because he hasn't won any titles at this point. He's been in good positions, and he's been really, really popular, actually, in the last a few years, which I'm really, really happy to see. And I always felt like he could be doing so much more skill-wise in the ring. But, I think he had told a story about the whole Usyk thing when he was over there sparring Usyk and how he was knocked out, but he didn't actually go down. He was still in there fighting and just didn't remember half the session. And it's like, damn, when you think about those things, and he's like, man, that's it for me. And that's a very, very good decision. When you feel like I was in there working and didn't even know I was in there working, that means it's time for me to get out of this game. Because to be that hurt, to not know or recall any of the things that you were doing, and your body was just on autopilot. And he said, the funny thing is, he said he was doing actually pretty good. It's like, man, it's time. And I understand where he's coming from. I don't take punishment. That's not what I do. I don't feel like that. My body's not made to get hit too much. And that's just the way I am. But a guy like him who can take punishment, give punishment, big, strong guy, when it's time and you realize it's time and you felt things that you really don't need to feel anymore and your mind's not where it needs to be with the sport, 100% agree it's time to walk away from it.
Yeah, and, if he's going to retire, then he should stay retired. I hope he doesn't do a U-turn on it. But it's an interesting time because obviously, he came back from sparring Usyk, and I'm sure you've seen the video where Usyk doesn't throw another shot after hurting him, which is really classy as well. But he came back. He was actually supposed to be boxing on the Usyk Chisora undercard. It's only that Christopher Lovejoy, his opponent, actually couldn't fight in the end because Don King put a stop to it a couple days before the fight. So he was supposed to be on that undercard, and then they actually announced a fight. He was going to be taking part in a fight, Dave, that I think they announced about 2 days before he announced his retirement. So it came as a bit of a shock, really. A lot of people are not quite sure whether to believe it or not. But yeah, if that is the end, then hopefully, he sticks with his decision. I don't want to see him do a U-turn, anytime soon. If he's sure, he knows himself better than anyone else does. But anyway, moving on. Another few fights have been announced on the Joshua Pulev undercard. Again, we get to see Joshua Pulev, obviously, on Sky Sports box office on December 12th. On the undercard, we get to see Akoli and Glowacki for the vacant Cruiserweight World title. But 2 other fights have been added. We get to see Martin Bakole and Sergei Kuzmin. A good heavyweight fight there for the WBC International Heavyweight title. Both men have 1 loss to the same guy, that guy being Michael Hunter. So that'd be interesting there to see who wins that. And another fight's been added. Hughie Fury steps in against Marius Wack. So all the best to Hughie in that one there. And the final piece of news is that Canelo has announced his next fight. It's going to be taking place December 19th. It didn't look like we were going to be seeing him in before the year's out. He gets in against Callum Smith, the undefeated WBA super middleweight world champion. So all the best to our very own Callum Smith in that one there. That's a huge fight he's landed there, so all the best to him. That's going to be taking place, like I say, December 19th. They haven't announced the venue yet, but it's going to be somewhere in Texas, so that's not really a surprise. It's going to be interesting, really, because, Canelo has boxed Liam Smith, so he's going to box 2 of the 4 Smith brothers. Anyway, that's it for the news. Moving on to the preview part, I'm going to try to go through this as quick as possible. This one takes place tomorrow, Friday, November 20th at the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, Florida, USA. It seems like through this pandemic, a lot of fighters have been coming out of retirement, and it seems like I keep saying this guy's been retired for 6 years, and I think I said it with Juan Pablo Hernandez, the cruiserweight Cuban, and then I said it with Sergio Martinez, and here's another guy coming out of retirement. I'm not sure if he actually officially retired, but anyway, he hasn't boxed for 6 years. He's back. 24-3 is his record. He takes on a guy called Ryan Soft, who is 4-11 with a draw. It's over 8 rounds, and the man I'm talking about, Tavoris Cloud. So all the best to him coming back. Moving out now to Quebec, Canada. This one on Saturday. We get to see Yves Ulysse Jr., a guy who I was very high on, actually. He's 18-2 now. It's very kind of weird because he lost a fight to a guy called Steve Claggett, and he was really, really upset with the decision. He felt he won the fight. He was so angry that he decided, I want to fight as soon as possible. So his promoters got him a fight 6 weeks later against the undefeated Cletus Seldin. And he absolutely schooled Cletus Seldin. He looked really good, and I thought, wow, this guy is really good. Perhaps that one loss was a bit of a weird one. Maybe he deserved to win it. Anyway, his last fight he took on Ishmael Barroso, who Brits will know really well for fighting Anthony Crolla and Kevin Mitchell and stuff like that. And he lost to Barroso. A bit of a shock loss there, Yves Ulysse. But anyway, he's back here, 18-2. It's for the vacant WBC Francophone super lightweight title. He takes on Mathieu Germain, who's 18-1 with a draw. And that's over 10 rounds there. But Steve Claggett, the guy who took Ulysses he's actually on the undercard, funny enough. Anyway, moving out now to the Wembley Arena. It was going to be on pay-per-view. Obviously, it's not happening now with Povetkin and White, but the show still goes on non-pay-per-view. Topping the bill, Conor Benn, 16-0. This is a defense here of his WBA Continental Welterweight title. He takes on Sebastian Formella, who's 22-1. The one loss came on points to Sean Porter about 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, something like that. This is a very big step up for Conor Benn. I hope he can come through it because it's a tough test. People don't, bums don't go the distance with Sean Porter, let me tell you. So he's got to be on his A game, Conor Benn, there to pull off the win. And Sebastian Formella, quite a a schooled amateur as well, if I'm not mistaken, quite an experienced amateur. We also get to see a really good heavyweight fight between Alan the Savage Babic. He's 5-0. He takes on Tom Little over 8 rounds. Tom Little 10-8. There could be some smart money on the underdog there. Fabio Wardley 9-0. He's in a 10-rounder against Richard Lartey of Ghana. Obviously, Lartey's been over here a bunch of times now. Against Nathan Gorman and against Daniel Dubois. He's back in a 10-rounder here against Wardley. Could be interesting, could be terrible. We shall see. And that's it. That's the end of the previewing. I've flown through that as quick as possible. Like I say, stick with us. We've got about a 90-minute interview, very in-depth, with Sharmba Mitchell coming up in just a few seconds. But before we get to that, Eddie, it's time to say goodbye and thank you to you once again for sticking with me this week. And I apologise that we didn't have enough time to do the lockdown knockdown, and I look forward to doing it next week. But just before you go, actually, I've just remembered I almost let you off the hook there. I forgot to ask you the trivia question. I know you didn't want to remind me about it. I know you probably knew.
No,
you're trying to get out of that
actually,
L.
I don't want to get into the L, but I actually was going to remind you, believe it or not. I was actually going to do it. As much as I don't want to take another L, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, here is the question. Let me think before I speak here. I don't want to give too much away. Which former heavyweight world champion once retiring from boxing in his later days, he's passed away now, in his later days he became a greeter in a hotel. I believe it was the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. He was a greeter. Everyone that came in, he would, he'd take pictures. He'd welcome them to the hotel. He'd play, I think, with house money on some of the casino games, stuff like that.
Ugh. You know what's funny enough? I've actually heard this story, and I cannot remember who the hell was the greeter, but damn, I heard this. Somebody told me this. It might have been my manager told me that a long time ago. It was like a former champion that I think that he knew of. It would be real bad if it was somebody I really knew. And he said he passed away now. Oh, wow. Well, tell me when he passed away. So at least you can give me that. Come on, man.
Okay. He passed away in... No, you didn't know. You didn't know this guy. He passed away in 1981.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying
personally.
I
get it.
Then my manager might have knew of him. Died in 81, huh? Great heavyweight champion, like big time. Heavyweight champion, like all time great.
I'm not confirming or denying.
Oh, man, come on. I'm not even going to answer because I don't know.
Okay.
I want to go ahead and give it to me if it's what I was going to think. No, just go ahead, give it to me. Let me hear what it is.
So in 1970, Caesars Palace in Las Vegas hired this former heavyweight world champion as a greeter, a job which involved signing autographs, betting with house money when the action seemed a little slow, and playing golf with special guests. They gave him housing as well because he kind of, as a lot of fighters do, they run out of money. And This guy passed away in 1981, April the 12th. The guy it's another L for you, an L for his surname, Joe Louis.
God damn, I swear, hey Joe, I swear to God, on everything, I was going to say Joe Louis, and God, that just made me so mad, Joe. That just pissed me off so much because I knew it. I could feel that it was going to be. And I knew it was Joe Louis because I remember that shit. And I remember he died. And the funny thing is, I remember he died the year before I was born. I knew it was it. Oh, man. Why did I just not say it? Why didn't I just say it?
You're better off, and I was you're better off guessing next time. If you're not sure, just say a guess. You might get it.
But that wasn't even a guess because I knew the shit. And I remember it. Now and then it wasn't Rob. It was a documentary that I was watching, and it was saying some of the things that he did because he didn't have money. And I remember, I was like, oh man, And I knew this. It was not a guess. At first, I was like, wait, Sonny listening? Because I knew he did. But remember, we talked about the refereeing. And I was like, nah, it was Joe Louis. And I knew it was fucking Joe Louis. I'm so mad for not saying that.
I'm sorry.
Man, I should get credit for that. God damn it.
I don't think you should get credit for it. I'm sorry. But
I didn't.
That's another L.
I got a losing record of this shit, yo. And I shouldn't. That shit would have got me one fight closer, one win closer.
It would have.
I'm so mad that I didn't say it. Oh my gosh. And I really, really knew it. I swear. And that's why I was so mad when you said Joe Louis. I was like, motherfucker. Like, why did I say it? Like, what is wrong with me sometimes? Like, always second guessing myself. Nah, man, I can't be doing this no more. From now on, I'm going to say this shit, whether I'm right or wrong. Hell with it.
But yeah, like I said, we need some more questions sent in. That one was from me. That's like the last one I've got. So I'll have to do the homework if no one sends them in. We haven't really had any being sent in the last couple of weeks.
I can't believe I let you beat me again, Joe. That's fucked up, yo.
I'm sorry, man.
That's messed up.
I'm sorry. But yeah.
You know you're not.
but yeah, like I say, Eddie, sorry to end on a bad note, but as I was saying, thanks for joining me again. Obviously, next time we'll definitely do a knockdown, and just thanks again for your time, man. I always appreciate it, as you know.
No problem, man. No problem. Thanks for the question too. I appreciate that too.
Okay, my man. Well, there we go. That's the end of Eddie Chambers. Like I say, the final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast, the former 140 world champion Sharmba Mitchell. And after that, I'll of course come in with the outro. If there's any news that develops from now till the end of the show in recording, then I will say it at the very end. But yeah, thanks once again, Eddie. And here is the interview with Sharmba Mitchell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA Light-Welterweight world champion. It is, of course, Mr. Sharmba Mitchell. Sharmba, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Sharmba. It truly is. I want to ask you this, Sharmba. I always start with this question when doing this kind of interview, really. Where did the journey begin? What's your earliest memory of first ever putting on a pair of gloves in the beginning?
My journey probably began when I was a kid. I think my mom, I went outside and and kids was messing with me. I think I was probably about 5 or 6, something like that, and I was always the smallest kid out there. So I went outside and I came back in crying. My mom said, "If you don't get back out there, I'm gonna kick your butt. If you don't kick their butt." So guess what? I went back outside and kicked their butt. So there you go. And then I was playing football and basketball. I was doing other sports, and my dad came past my house one day when I was 8 years old and asked me to take a ride with him and took me to Hyattsville, Maryland, and to Round One Boxing Club, which Adrian Davis had. And that's where I started fighting in 1978.
Wow, amazing, man. I love to get the backstory for how everyone started out. Forgive me, Sharmba, if I'm not too clued up on this, but did you have an extensive amateur career at all?
Oh yeah, I went all the way to I lost to Kevin Kelly in the Olympic trials in '88. Mark Two Shop Johnson and I was the two youngest on that '88 team that year. Wow. So yeah, I went all the way to there. I won the Junior Olympics. I won. I lost in the Golden Glove Nationals. I did it all, and I did it in a short period of time, especially when I turned open because of my age. I had just qualified to go open, and when I won the chance to go to the Olympic Festival in '87, which we had it in North Carolina that year, I went to the Olympic Festival. I had to get permission to even go to the Olympic Festival qualifications in Lake Placid. So I went up there and I won that. So it qualified me for the Olympic Festival. So I ended up going to the Olympic Festival in '87, right before the Olympics.
And Sharmba, what would you say was your kind of highlight moment of the amateurs?
The amateurs, man, probably I won the most prestigious tournament in the U.S. that they probably had, and that was the Ohio State Fair. Myself and actually Mark's older brother won it the most out of anybody in the history, and won it. I won it 6 times in a row.
Oh wow!
The Ohio State Fair, yeah. So everybody from Mike Tyson to Tommy Hearns to Harold McKinty, everybody fought at the Ohio State Fair. Everybody.
Wow.
Major tournament. I actually, my last year, I ended up beating Arturo Gotti in the finals.
Wow.
And I actually ended up winning the outstanding fighter that year at I think it was 106. I fought at 106. That was the last year I fought in 1986 was the last year I fought there. Yep.
Wow. Well, there you go. But I want to get onto your pro career, Sharmba. You turned pro on September 23rd, 1988 in Atlantic City. You boxed a guy by the name of Eddie Colon. You stopped him in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Do you remember much of your debut?
Yeah. No, I remember I was scared. I was actually supposed to fight on TV, and I was in the back in my dressing room nervous. And Frank Gale was my promoter at the time, was my manager and promoters at the time, and he was like, I was like, man, can I go on now? He said, we want you to fight on TV. And he said, well, if you want to go on now, we'll put you in front. So they made me go on. They let me go on. Yep.
And I wanna.
But I was the first. It's funny as a pro also. They wouldn't let me do a lot of things also. Like I couldn't fight 8 rounds for a while. They wouldn't let me fight 10 rounds for a while. I had to get permission to do a lot of things, even as a pro. So it's weird, like what they do now. Like a lot of these kids are 17, 18 years old, turning pro. They're giving out belts. They're giving out like loads of money. But I had to get permission to do a lot of things. Like I end up getting permission to be able to fight an 8-round fight, and then a 10-round fight in Atlantic City. When I went to Vegas, I had to get permission to be able to fight a 10-round fight in Vegas.
It's mad how times have changed, because it's just getting it's unfortunate, Sharmba, but it's getting more and more of a business these days, and you're seeing that with these YouTube boxers and stuff like that. It's
absolutely.
It was more of a sport back then. But let me fast forward here to March of 1990. By this point, you'd been a pro for 18 months. You were 13-0. You took on former WBC super featherweight world champion Rafael Lemon again in Atlantic City. Tell me about that fight there. I guess it was really your kind of first real test. You were able to win a unanimous decision over 8 rounds, but during the fight, a very unusual incident took place. Tell us about it.
Well, that was on the bloopers. That was everything, man. Ended up pulling my pants down. And I ended up wearing suspenders. But, that was one of the fights I had to get permission to be able to fight 8 rounds and stuff on. So, Rafael Lemon, that was a funny time. Yeah. Ended up pulling our pants down, man, because he got frustrated, and then I really beat him up then.
Yeah. And again, you got the win, you gathered the experience, and jumping forward again I want to jump here to April of 1992. By this point, you're 27-0. You box in New Jersey against the former 2-time super featherweight world champion Rocky Lockridge. It ended up being Rocky's last ever pro fight, but again, it was a great learning fight for you at the time, I feel. You were able to...
absolutely.
Yeah, you were able to pretty much shut him out, really, over 10 rounds. Not many people did that. Tell us about that fight there, Sharmba.
Man, that was the fight. I tell everybody. Everybody asks me, who was your hardest hitting guy, and that was him. Man, I mean, blasted me. I was sitting on the ropes. He blasted me, I think, with a right hand or something. And I didn't see anything. And then the bell rang. And I went to my corner, and I was like, what just happened? So he was one of those guys, and, he was, like they do, they bring old champions and, get you that kind of experience. And it was an honor, fighting him and then winning and getting that experience to be able to do that, And like I said, you was just saying, I was 27 old then?
Yeah.
And still have not had a chance to get a shot at a world title. Unreal, unbelievable. Like, well, nowadays, they, like I said, they almost giving away belts, and they want to, say these guys are, world beaters, and, they're just not, but it is what it is now.
But no, like I say, at that time, that's a great win for yourself. Against a former champion, a good champion at that. After that, you rack up another 2 wins. Then you get to 30-0. That's when you box the undefeated 35-0 Chad Brossard. The fight takes place in the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas for the vacant NABF lightweight title. You had him down 3 times
Correct.
in the first round. You managed to get the first round knockout. Again, on the undercard of Bo Holyfield, the rematch, the night of the fan man.
The fan man. Yeah.
But tell us about that. Tell us about that night from your experience, Sharmba.
Oh man, that was one of the greatest nights. I went in there really confident. Me, Riddick and I, and Rock Newman, all of our, we worked together to be able to put that fight together. And my management team, put that fight together. And I thought it was a great fight with this guy that was undefeated, and see what he had. And I was one of those guys that didn't care, who I fought. I thought I could beat anybody. So, I went in there and did it. And they call it like one of the greatest knockouts in the fastest knockouts. But that night, it's funny, that night, I'm sitting down there and I end up meeting Lou Gossett Jr. at the fight, at that night. And he was like, man, you were amazing. So I ended up meeting him that night at the fight. The fan man came in and blew everything up. And that, everybody knows the fan man, but guess what? I was able to be there, see it, and win a belt on that night.
That's incredible, man. So were you ringside when he flew in?
Yeah,
wow.
I was in. I was right at ringside. I can't remember who was sitting. It was somebody that was sitting beside me that was. I can't remember. One of the actors or something was sitting right beside me, and we was like, "What the heck is going on?"
Yeah, man. One of the.
So that was amazing. It was a cold night too. That was one of the cold nights in Vegas also.
That's just one of the most bizarre things in boxing history, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did a lot of that with Bo. Shoot, Bo and I, when we fought on ESPN in D.C. together, and Rock Newman came up and pulled the guy over the rope, choked him by the neck, and pulled him over the rope. That was another one. I fought on that card too.
Wow, you would the crazy luck charm, I guess.
Yeah.
But 4 months after that crazy night there, Sharmba, you're back in the ring defending your newly won NABF title. You also put your undefeated record on the line against a fellow undefeated boxer, the eventual IBF lightweight world champion, the late Levander Johnson. You were winning the fight on 2 of the judges' scorecards before being knocked out in the 8th round and, of course, losing for the first time in your career. Tell us about that one, there, Sharmba.
Levander Johnson, me and Levander Johnson always had kind of like a little spill with each other. We had like it was a more of a DC Atlantic City kind of a thing, but it was all in great friendship. Friendship and probably competing wise. I thought he was always a great guy. I thought he was always a good fighter. He just was not better than myself. And I went, and it's weird because I had just signed with Don, and we were going through so much stuff because I can't remember. One of those Spanish guys at the time was the champion. I wanted to fight him. He wanted to match me and Lavanda, and then he wasn't going to give me a shot at the title. And I'm like getting frustrated. So for that fight, actually, I defeated myself because I didn't train. I was more frustrated than anything. And I went into the fight, not prepared. I went into the fight totally not prepared. So I really blame myself on that. It's pretty much a frustration and, just pure fed up with what was going on.
I see. And, after that, obviously, you're back in the ring only 3 months later, which, looking back now, seems quite soon after a stoppage loss, especially, when you ended up boxing the eventual 2-time WBC lightweight world champion Stevie Johnson, who at the time was 11-0. Again, unfortunately for you, you'd suffer a knockout loss again, this time in round 9.
And that
bad patch for you,
right?
there.
But that one was really bogus. Remember the ref that's the one that was taking bribes on ref, and I think is it he's not alive anymore, right? I think he's deceased now. I believe.
Yeah, he died young.
Yeah, because he was taking bribes, and I think it was something with that. But that was a fight that shouldn't have never been stopped at all. I went back on the ropes, and then he stops it. Like the 2 fights that I really am angry about being stopped was that fight, definitely, because if I'm in the fight, I thought I was winning the fight, and it ain't, he not shutting me out, or I'm not shutting him out, but the fight is close. You're going to stop because I went back on the rope. That was it. So that's the guy that was the ref that was taking bribes for fights.
Yeah.
And that fight there, I don't think should have been stopped. In Floyd fight, definitely, it shouldn't have been stopped.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. I took a knee for a reason.
Yeah, no, I know. But yeah, the referee in question, Mitch Halpin, he only lived to be 33 years of age. You're right. The fight was close. You were ahead on one of the cards.
Right.
So yeah, you managed, like I say, to get to 31-0. Everything was going great. Then you get in there with 2 undefeated fighters back to back. Both guys were really good amateurs. We mentioned. Obviously, at the point you fought them, no one knew for sure how good they'd be as pros. They both went on to become world champions. Do you blame bad matchmaking for those losses at all, Sharmba? In particular, the second fight?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all. No. The first fight, myself. The second fight, that wasn't my fault. It wasn't his fault. It was all the refs. If you ever pull that fight up or ever get tape on that fight, you see that fight, you'll be like, what did they stop that for? I wasn't hurt. He never hurt me or anything like that. I was clearly in the fight, winning the fight. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that one was bad reffing all the way around.
And Sharmba, obviously you know yourself that boxing is such a mental sport. You've got to have mental toughness to succeed at the top level.
Absolutely.
Even though you've got kind of reasons for these losses. You blamed yourself that the referee was at fault in the second one. Did you ever have a moment, kind of looking back, your record read 2 back-to-back stoppage defeats. Did you ever have doubt in your mind that you perhaps wouldn't go on to become a world champion at this point?
Nah, never. Because I never did. Because I always said to myself, the only person that can beat me is myself. That's it. And I've always kept that in my head and kept that going with myself. The only person that can beat me is myself.
Do you feel maybe like the losses turned you into a better fighter at all then?
Well, it made me be have more respect for the game, and just go back and do homework and make sure that it didn't happen again. You know what I'm saying? You always get measure a man of the, you know, you win and you lose. It's how you get back up and finish out, you know, what you're doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, you know, naturally after those two fights, you dropped down a level a little bit. You came back with 2 wins, one over Lyndon Walker in 2 rounds, a guy who also lost his O to Levander Johnson. Then obviously a win over Wayne Boudreaux in 5 rounds. Your next fight, however, you'd step back in with another undefeated fighter, this time in the shape of Tyron Millay, another guy who would go on to become a future world champion. However, this time you make a huge statement. You knock him out in round 1. No one ever beat him in that fashion throughout his entire career. At that point, Sharmba, do you feel like this was the type of win perhaps that your career needed, not to convince yourself, but to convince the public, the fans, that you were the real deal? Those were just 2 blips.
Absolutely, because they that one was a whole Don King thing, period. That one truly, and he was one of his fighters, and then Tyron really did not like me that much anyway, and I didn't really care for him that much either. So it even sparked it even more, and I knew I was going to go in there and handle business. Like I said again, I never ducked anyone. If you put them in front of me, it's my job to knock them down.
Yeah, and like I said before, you know, the possibility of those 2 hiccups, I'm going to call them, pushing you on. You say it didn't really do much for you. I disagree. I think it gave you some kind of push, because that was a brilliant win. It seemed like a blessing in disguise.
Well, absolutely.
A bit, you know,
it gives you a push, because it tells me and tells people that I really ain't gonna, like, you know, if they would lose losses, but this is really me. You know, let me come back and do what I know how to do, and I'm not gone anywhere. Don't count me out.
Yeah. And yeah, you know, like I say, you put together a bit of a run, an 8-fight knockout win streak right up until you boxed former 2-time world title challenger Rafael Barboza. This one was for the WBA Federatin Super Lightweight title. The fight takes place in Miami, Florida, on May the 10th, 1997. Barboza was a tough guy, man. You put him down 3 times in the fight.
Yes, indeed.
But ultimately, it ended with a unanimous decision win for you over 12. Tell us about that one. Like I say, tough guy.
Holy smoke. Yeah. I mean, it was just like what you just said. Like, I mean, you know, I could hit him with absolutely everything, and it wouldn't go anywhere. I'm like, what is keeping this dude up here? But that was another one of those fights. You know, like, I want to grab this title, this WBC Fed Latin. I want to grab this title. You know, I want to let people know that I need a world title shot. I should have had a world title shot, and that was the statement I wanted to make.
Yeah, no, a good win, like we said, a tough guy. You grabbed another 2 knockout wins, one over Desi Ford in 5 rounds and one over Bobby Elkins in 1 round. This then brings us up to October 10th, 1998, 22 years ago last month, that'd be. You box the reigning WBA Light-Welterweight world champion Khalid Rahilu. You had to travel all the way to Paris, Sharmba. Tell us about the night that your dreams of becoming a world champion came true.
So this is funny. He fought Don's guy. What's his name? The one who beat Chavez. He had just beat Chavez, and then He fought
Frankie Randall.
Frankie Randall, yeah. So Frankie Randall fights him, right? And I'm watching this fight. And as I'm watching this fight, I pick up the phone and call Don. I pick up the phone and call Debbie, his daughter. And I'm like, Deb, I want to fight that. I want to fight that guy. So Don calls me the next day. Man, do you really want to fight that guy? Yeah, he can't fight. He can't beat me. I'm telling you, he cannot. Listen to me. He cannot beat me. Sean, you true about that? Man, look, he can't beat me. If you put that fight together, trust me, I'm gonna beat. So he puts the fight together. The whole time I'm out at his training camp, he really doesn't believe that I can really win out there. So he has his other guy, one of the other guys from America, is fighting on that card also. So he had real big hope about him. So he kept saying, the real guy that I got fighting on here is, I think he was a welterweight at the time. That was the welterweight that fought on the card also. But I was the main event because that was Raphael. I mean, that was his hometown. Went in there, and I just knew for sure. Like, I was like, man, I told my trainers and all, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to destroy him and knock him out. So I went in there, and I just played. I was such in tip-top shape, you just don't understand. I woke up. I was at Don's training camp in Ohio, in Orwell. I woke up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and trained. That's what time I started training in the gym, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Early mornings.
Yeah, because Paris was that time I knew I would probably be fighting around that time, or that I wanted to get used to their time, their time change.
Okay. And what was it like really to travel there? It's a long way away from where you're from, and obviously, to go out there knowing if it goes to the cards, they might try and job you on the cards perhaps. You did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I knew I knew I had to go there and really beat them or knock them out. And I knocked them down. I put them on the ground 3 or 4 times. Had them hurt a couple of times. I was surprised they didn't even stop the fight. But it went 12, and I did exactly what I was supposed to do. If they would have stole that one from me, then come on. It's no way in 3,000 worlds I could have got robbed of that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I like to ask this question, Sharmba, because I hear a variety of different answers, but try your best to describe to me that feeling of becoming a world champion.
It's funny. When you wait so long to first me as a kid. I just think of this young kid from Washington, D.C., born and raised in, with nothing, to just get into a sport. And to be honest with you, boxing is not my number one sport. Football is. And I always wanted to play football. That was my sport, football. And to be able to get into boxing, and, when you get into these sports as a kid in football, the big thing is win a Super Bowl, right? Get a Super Bowl ring. In basketball, get an NBA title, get an NBA ring. As a fighter, it's become a world champion, get a world title in a ring. And I finally accomplished that. It's funny because I go home to my grandmother, and my grandmother was always telling me, Sharmba, you're what she say, you're a trader of everything or a master of none, or that wording that they always used to use, Americans use. But I went home and I told her, Grandma, I finally mastered something. and I let her see my belt. You know, and like I finally mastered something. So that getting that world, it's like I didn't even really sleep that night. You know, I didn't really sleep that night. The night after, you know, it's a high that you don't really want to come off of. And then once you come down of it, you realize you're world title, you're world champion. You know, they give me all these awards and they accolade me and stuff like that. But guess what? The hardest thing is keeping the title.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing in the world. The hardest thing is keeping the title. Yeah, remember, everybody is thinking the same way that I thought. He got that title. I said, oh, yeah, I want to fight him.
Yeah.
Everybody thinking the same thing. Oh, I want to fight him because I know I can beat him. And they're going to try harder to beat me than they try any other time in their life.
Yeah. Target.
So that means as a world champion, guess what? You got to train even harder.
Yeah, for sure. Like we say, a target on your back when you become a world champion. Sharmba, did your life change at all? Did you? I've never asked anyone this before. I've spoke to many world champions, but did you? Did you purchase any crazy things when you first become champ?
No, actually, I didn't. I lived in a townhouse. I ended up purchasing my single family home. I stayed there, you know, and you know I didn't do anything really crazy or wild or get any cars or anything like that. I had a motorcycle or two or something like that. That was about it.
Fair enough.
That's all.
Fair enough.
You know. Yeah, I love clothes, so I always like to look good. Other than that, no.
And 4 months later, you made your first defense of the title. You boxed back in DC against Pedro Saiz. You win the fight unanimously over 12. Just run us through that one as well, Sharmba.
He wouldn't go anywhere. Pedro Saiz is one of those journeymen that, you know, gonna stick around, and he's always in the gym, always sparring with a lot of pros and stuff like that. He's a journeyman. He stayed in there. You know, it was a good fight to, you know, slip. I slipped a lot. He missed a lot. You know, I worked on a lot of things. I like to know that I could go those 12 rounds if I have to. If you get a knockout, you get a knockout.
And your second defense came just 2 months later. Quick turnaround, April 1999 against Reggie Green, again back in DC.
Yeah.
This one ended with a majority decision, over 12. Tell us about that one, Sharmba.
Yeah. So Reggie Green fight, man. You know, I never like to fight guys from where I'm from. Because I always feel like that I want all of us here in D.C. or in Maryland to be able to get title shots, you know, get a shot at the title. It was just unfortunate that we were in the same weight class. So I gave him a shot at the title. But one thing about me, I don't care if you're from here. I don't care where you from. If you gonna fight me in my town, in my city, you're not beating me at home. And that was always my motto. My motto is I don't care where you're from. You can be from my home, but guess what? You're not beating me in my home because D.C. was my town. So I would never, ever lose in D.C., ever. Not in my own hometown. But, Reggie Green, I wanted to give him a shot at the title, you know. I thought that he worked really hard to, you know, get to that point also to get a shot at the title. But I was just one of the ones that, you know, had the belts. So I said, you know, I want to give him a shot at the title, Don, and I gave him a shot at the title. And I was the first person to fight and be the main event in the stadium for the Washington Wizards, the first one.
That's cool, history making.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
It's just like the Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard was one of the first guys to fight in the Capitol Center. Yeah.
Do you know, I didn't say it a few minutes ago, but your Don King impression is one of the best I've ever heard, man. That was really good.
That's Don is look, you know, a lot of people always say Don's a thief, and Don is a hustler. Don is a businessman. I've never ever took anything away from Don. Don is a street guy who's done good with his money and became one of the greatest promoters, right? His contracts was never complicated like people like to say. I always say that, you know, you got people that can read these contracts. My lawyers, Jeffrey, they can read my contracts. They knew what I wanted and so when it was time for me to get away from Don, it wasn't no harsh breakup or anything like that. Me and Don can still talk right now. I just got away. I didn't allow him to buy me any cars or any houses or anything like that. So guess what? I didn't owe him any money. And that's what these guys do. These guys, you know, they get Don said, let me buy a car. Guess what? That car gonna come out of your check sometime. Believe me. You know, so these are things that people give, and they don't. If you don't tell the whole story, I'd rather you tell the whole story and then let people judge you from there.
Yeah, we had Layman Brewster on a couple weeks ago, and he had some interest in Don King stories. But anyways,
I could believe it.
Moving on. 7 months after that Reggie Green fight, you make your third defense of the title against Elio Ortiz. Again, you win on points unanimously over 12, and it was a part of a huge event, of course, the Lewis Holyfield 2 undercard. Just tell us about that one there as well, Sharmba.
Oh man, I remember, man, that guy, he was just tough, period. I think he was tough because I ended up getting my eye cut. We head-butted, and my eye ended up getting cut. And I think I was fighting about 6 or 7 rounds with seeing out of one eye.
Damn.
Because there was so much blood coming in, I couldn't really see. The guy could hit hard as hell though, and I think I was just that slick. I was slick enough to be able to maneuver around and get the decision, but I never was in any jeopardy or anything like that. Nah.
Yeah. But no, like I say, on a huge event again, the big heavyweight showdown there, massive card.
Right.
Your fourth defense came 10 months after this, September 16th, 2000, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. You boxed Felix Flores. You were put down in round 4. However, you got back up. You managed to pull off yet another unanimous decision. Tell us.
You know what? I really to this day, right now, I have not seen that fight, and I don't watch any. I rarely watch any of my fights, but I really wanted to see that fight because I don't even remember. I remember getting hit, but I don't remember what I got hit with. All I did was go down, and I got right back up. I went down, I got back up, and it's funny because Floyd was at the fight. He came right to my dress. He said, "Sharmba, man, I thought when you got knocked down, you was done." But he said, "You did some stuff that I thought I was the only one that could do. Man, you start pulling the shoulder around, man. You start slipping." And he said, "Man, that's the stuff I told." The way that Floyd fights now, you know, with the shoulder up and stuff like that, I was doing that stuff then. But he said, "Man, you got knocked down." He said something else came out of you, and you just started slipping stuff and tapping them around. He said that was incredible.
It was a good win, you know, because Felix Flores, you know, as we said, he's a decent fighter, but I don't know, his career never kind of. I think he had more potential than what he ended up, you know, getting out of boxing. Really, guys like him, and a few of the guys that you defended against as well. Really, you know?
Yeah, that's funny, but I still to this day don't remember what he hit me if he put me down. But it was like a flash knockdown. I just got knocked down. I got back up, and I took care of business.
Yeah, I remember it was he hit you. I'm not sure what punch he put you down with. I think he hit you in the body at some point, but I think it was after the main shot had landed. I think it was a left uppercut that stunned you.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. But I know I went down, I got right back up, and I was fine after that. Like, it wasn't nothing.
5 months later, you land that unification fight, putting your WBA world title on the line against the then WBC world champion, the fantastic Kostya Tszyu. During the fight,
right.
you injure your knee. He had a point deducted for pushing. The fight ended with you retiring on your stall at the end of the 7th round. It was a great fight while it lasted, Sharmba. I thought that I'm a massive fan of footwork. I thought your footwork that night was sensational, even with the knee. But tell us about the night it all kind of went wrong for you, though.
Well,
by the way, you caught him with an excellent shot in round 4, a peach of a shot in round 4.
Yeah, So when I got to Vegas, I'm jogging, and all of a sudden, I'm getting this numbness in my whole entire leg. Like, why is it numbness? So I'm telling my trainer, Marvin, I'm like, Rock, man, I'm getting this numbness in my leg like every 10 to 15 minutes. I'm jogging a little bit, and I'm getting this numbness. So I end up going to doctor. Doctor was like, let me take some, x-rays and stuff like that. So I literally fought with my ACL, partial tear, my meniscus, PCL, and something else in my left knee. I end up having to get, because right in 1987, I think it was, right before I was ready to fight a world title fight, and I ended up having to postpone it because I ended up tearing my whole entire knee out. So it ended up acting up again, and the doctor was like, how did you even fight? Like, how did you even go in there and do anything? And I was so pumped for this fight, and I was so ready to fight this fight that I wasn't gonna let anything hold me back. And I went in there and did the best I could do. He started kind of pushing me around a little bit, and because he knew that it was something going on with my knee. And after, like, at that 7th round, I go back and I'm like, man, I can't feel like absolutely nothing. I couldn't even get up. I couldn't even get up off the stool, and they had to call it. And if I think about it now, I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have done the same thing, got in there and fought. I probably wouldn't have postponed it or anything like that. I'm just that kind of fighter. I just don't think anybody could beat me. And, I went in there and did what I could do. I think if I would have sat down on my punches more and not did a lot of movement, but that's my style.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was a great fight anyway. I mean, your movement was excellent. He did start kind of roughing you up a little bit towards the end. And like I said, that shot you caught him with in the 4th, I'll never understand how he took that. I mean, wow. You were kept out the ring for over a year after that, before returning with 2 10-round unanimous decision wins, the first against Bernard Harris and the second against Frank Houghton. Before boxing the former IBF super lightweight world champion Vince Phillips. Now, on paper, it was an interesting fight because obviously Phillips had knocked Kostya Tszyu out and took his O. You lost to Kostya Tszyu.
Yep.
You also knocked out Millet, but Phillips lost to him. And it's just that same old saying: styles make fights. But anyways, you were successful here again in Oklahoma. Saturday, November the 9th, 2002, majority decision over 10 rounds. Tell us about that one. Good win again.
Yeah, Vince Phillips, man. Very interesting fight. Very good fight. I think at the time he was under Ray Leonard, and I think he was under Ray then because I had bet Ray a golf game if I beat Vince. So, because me and Ray are really cool, so I had bet Ray a golf game. But Vince was one of those hard fighters and veterans, to fight. He was, and I watched that fight once. I watched that fight once on TV, and he was one of those guys that you had to be real careful with because he could punch, and he was one of those really skillful veterans. He was a real vet, So, but I always thought that, like I said, I tell you, with me, I'm not going to duck anyone. I don't care who you knocked out. I don't care who you beat and all that stuff. You got to fight me. It's me in there. So I'm a total different person of all those people that you fought.
Yeah, because you and Vince were both world champions at the same time. Obviously, it could have been a unification at one stage, but when you ended up fighting,
Correct.
Obviously, at that point, no one held a belt between the pair of you. Was it?
No.
Or can it be?
It was an IBF. It was an IBF eliminator. Yeah.
Can it be harder to kind of be motivated for a fight when it could have been bigger in the past, or did that not really come into it?
No. You don't really think about that. You think about what's going on at that moment, because at that time I was positioning myself for another belt.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to take care of business to get to this other accomplishment that I was trying to accomplish. I was trying to become a 2-time world champion, not just a champion.
And your next fight was on Showtime. You stopped Carlos Vilches in 4. 4 months later, you boxed
with the beautiful uppercut.
Beautiful uppercut. 4 months later, you boxed Ben Taki. Go on.
So the uppercut, that's funny because I sent that that same uppercut to my man Davis, because I said, this is the same uppercut you just hit your boy with and knocked him out. So I said, look how I threw it. I said, you threw it kind of sort of the same way.
Yeah, man, it was brutal. It was brutal, that knockout.
Yeah.
But yeah, you stopped Vilches in 4 rounds. 4 months later, you boxed Ben Taki. You beat him unanimously over 12. Then we move into the year 2004. We're now in February. You boxed Lovemore and Do.
Well, the Ben Taki.
Yeah, go on.
The Ben Taki.
I'm going too fast.
The Ben Taki fight. Yeah, the Ben Taki fight, man. Everybody was kind of scared to fight Ben Taki. Ben Taki was one of those hard Africans that could fight like nobody could do anything, and I was the first one to knock him down.
Yeah,
I was the only one to knock him down.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
he could take some punches, man. Whew.
There's a lot of fighters like that, man. There's a lot of these African fighters, man. They're so tough. It just runs in the blood, man. A lot of these guys.
Yeah, and he was one of those ones that he could catch you. If he caught you, he can get you. But yeah, he was the tough one.
Yeah, and talking of tough Africans, like I said there, Lovemore and Do in the next fight for the interim IBF Light-Welterweight world title. The fight takes place in Atlantic City. Again, you're able to win a unanimous decision. But yeah, tell us about that. Like I say, he was tough as hell, man.
Yeah, but the weird thing about that fight there, so 2 weeks before the fight, my grandmother dies. So in training camp, my grandmother dies, and then
this is just
2 weeks later, I got this fight.
To jump in, Sharmba, this is the grandmother that you said, I'm I'm now world class at something.
No, not that one.
The other
My
guy.
mother's, my father's mother.
Okay.
My father's mother ended up dying, and it was one of those, like, I'm away in training camp. I'm in Florida, and I'm having to take care of a lot of stuff for her while I'm in Florida. So I have my people at home taking care of stuff for her. So as soon as I get, finish the fight, I got a funeral to go to. So it was one of those fights I was in. I was there, but I wasn't there. I think I got to the corner, and I think I said to Buddy McGirt or one of them, I was like, "What round is it? Like, is this fight over yet? Like, is it over?" I just wanted to get out of the fight.
Yeah, no, things like this have obviously happened, and it can make you or break you in many ways, Sharmba.
Yeah.
You can be physically in the ring, but your brain, you're mentally somewhere else.
Right.
And
then to win one of the titles that I always wanted of IBF, like I always wanted that title, and to win that, it was just weird. So, yeah.
And in your next fight, that's when you get on a plane and come to the UK, in my backyard. You box.
Manchester. Oh, my gracious, I had a ball there.
Yeah, tell us about that. You boxed Michael Stewart. You knocked him down, I think, three or four times in the fight. Tell us about the experience of coming to the UK and fighting here. Manchester, big fight city, man. Big fight city.
Yeah, I listen to me, man. I would love to go to Manchester anytime. I loved it. Absolutely loved it, man. Absolutely nothing like Paris. Like, absolutely nothing. Yeah. The food was good. Where I stayed at was really nice. I had a ball there, man. I had a ball. It was one of those fights where they brought me over to see if they want me to fight Ricky Hatton. I blast out my opponent. And then all of a sudden now they don't know if they want me to fight Ricky Hatton. They don't want Ricky Hatton to really put up with that smoke. So that's what that all was all about.
I thought so. I was gonna say it seems strange looking back now to come to Manchester on a Hatton card, and
right. Yeah. That's what that was all about. To see how it would look. To see, if am I getting old? Am I what's going on? I'm 30 something. With Sharmba, that type thing.
Okay.
And Ricky Hatton wouldn't have. I would have blasted him out.
Okay. That's an interesting fight, man. I wish we got to see
that. Yeah, I wish we got to see it too.
4 months after that is when you boxed Moises Pedroza, I should say, and after that is when you then got that rematch with Kostya Tszyu for the IBF Light-Welterweight world title.
Yeah, after sitting and waiting 4 more years and then a whole nother year, so it's 5 years to redo that title. It's funny. When I fought him the first time, my trainer, my personal trainer, Mackie Shieldstone, he was telling me, he said, "Man, you got to get out of the 140 weight class because you're losing like 3 to 4 pounds of muscle just to get down to 140 pounds." So, that was when I first fought Kostya Tszyu. So we get ready to fight again, and then Kostya Tszyu tears his Achilles. It got pushed back again. Then we get ready to go to what I think we was going to fight in Russia. Then something happened with Russia and got pushed back again. Then we end up going to Arizona. When I tell you when I say I barely made that weight, it was barely. if I would have had to get if I wouldn't have made that weight, then I probably wouldn't have fought because I had no more to lose. I had no more weight to lose. The weird part is that I was in the back in my dressing room, and I'm warming up, and I'm trying to sweat, and I couldn't even sweat. I had to put a sweatsuit on. I put a sweatsuit on and shadow box, tried to hit the pads, couldn't even sweat. I get in the ring, and then they want to sing the national anthem. Oh, it pissed me off even more. So me going into that fight, my daughter probably could have fought me that night and knocked me down. That's how weak I was. No bull. Like I had nothing. When I say nothing. Like I wasn't sweating. I didn't have a drop of sweat on me. I had lost so much weight. And that's why, who was my promoter at the time? Oh, Gary Shaw. Gary Shaw was my man because we had a handshake. We always did what we said we was going to do. So Gary Shaw was saying, would you fight Ricky Hatton? I'm like, man, look, I'm not fighting that. It'll be at 147. It won't be at 140. Or I was going to retire. So for me, I was going to retire actually right after Vince Phillips fight. I was going to retire because it just seemed like the Kostya Tszyu fight wasn't going to happen. And I wasn't feeling the 140 thing anymore. And I was just drained out of my mind from 140. So when that fight happened, it was almost like, I had to do it kind of fight.
Yeah, and like I say, it was repeat rather than revenge for yourself. Obviously, you were down 4 times in total and stopped in the third. Moving on. Moving on. After that, you come back with a win over Chris Smith, a technical decision after 5. This then brings us up to November 2005. You get that opportunity in Oregon to box Floyd Mayweather. As you say, not right to have had the fight stopped in round 6, but just tell us about that fight. Obviously, Floyd, one of the best, in my opinion,
but
certainly of that era.
It's a story to that. Story to that.
That's what we're here for, baby.
That fight. It's funny. So I fight in D.C. on the Mike Tyson card. Mike Tyson comes to D.C. and fights, and I'm on that card. I win the NBA welterweight title, right? So I win the NBA welterweight title, and boom, we sign the fight Zab Judah. I'm in training camp to fight Zab Judah. In training camp for 2-3 weeks at the time. Boom, I get a call. Zab pulls out. Huh? So I'm sitting at my house in Florida for about a week, and they say, well, what you want to do? You want to go home or you want to stay here? So I said, I want to stay here for a while. So I get another call. My cousin calls me and say, look, man, me and Jay Prince talk, man. You want to fight Floyd? Floyd said he'll fight you. I said, why would I fight Floyd? And they said, well, why not? They said, you and Floyd sound the same way. What is with this? I said, that's my man. We all right. Nothing with Floyd. What I need to fight him for? Well, if you win it, he said. So it was like, it's business. Business is business, man. Take care of business, and friends, y'all friends at the end of the day. So that's how that fight went off. It wasn't even supposed to go off. I was in training camp. I was in training camp to fight Zab. I didn't listen to me, man. I didn't want to fight anybody. When we had signed that fight to fight Zab, listen, I was ready. I was ready to rock and roll. I almost felt like I was getting ready to fight for the world title all over again for the first time.
And tell us about the fight itself. Obviously, getting in there with Floyd.
Well, I mean, for me, it was a regular fight. It was a good fight because he was the up and coming star at the time, and I was the wily veteran with the great record also. You know, that had the great style that, you know, could probably trip him up. And to this day, you see him, ESPN, Floyd say, you know, that was one of the hardest fights he had. Like I always tell people, Floyd places his punches very well. The punches are not hard. It just places his punches very well.
Yeah, great punch picker.
And when you come up in a family, I mean, when you come out your mom's belly and you put on boxing gloves, I mean, you know what I'm saying? What else can you do? You know what I'm saying? So, I take my hat off to him, and I love what he done with the, you know, the sport and what he's accomplished. You know, because he did all of the things that his father, his uncle, and all of them wanted to do, and he became that. He just picked up where they left off at. That's all, and went with it.
Sharmba, was he the best fighter you ever boxed, do you think?
Nah, no.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No,
I'm going to pause it there, and I'm going to ask you who the best fighter that you ever boxed is in a couple of minutes. After the Floyd fight, you return to the ring 6 months later. You pick up a win over Jose Luis Cruz on points in California. 3 months later, that's when you appeared for the final time in a boxing ring. August 19th, 2006. A KO loss in 4 to Paul Williams in Reno. Not the way I think you'd have wanted your career to end, of course, but just tell us about the fight regardless. Paul Williams was a great fighter and absolutely huge stood next to you.
Absolutely.
How tall is he, Sharmba? I hear he's about 6'3" in real life.
Yeah, he's really tall.
Yeah.
I mean, like I had to jump up to hit him, and to be honest with you, I could have kind of sort of just stayed planted and kind of bullied him, but I'm a boxer, and you know I do what I do. But it's funny because after the Floyd fight, I really was going to just retire, and they kept asking me to fight these fights, and it's like, you know, they know that I'm not going to turn anybody down if they want to fight. So you know that's why I did it. But then after the Paul Williams fight, I was just done. I knew I was done. I wasn't into the game anymore. I wanted to get out completely. I didn't need it anymore. It's better to come out where you can understand me instead of not being able to understand me.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the truest thing that anyone can say about retiring from boxing. So you did retire. The record ended up 57 wins, 30 by KO and 6 losses. Sharmba, I want to ask you this now, a couple of quick fire kind of questions. We saved it till last there. Who was the best fighter then that you ever boxed if it wasn't Floyd?
Wow. It was a fight that I fought in Atlantic City. I fought a fight in Atlantic City. I can't remember this guy's name, but it was one of the toughest fights that I ever had. And it was early in my career, like really early. I might have been probably 18-0 or 20-0 or something like that. I think I might have been. But I can't remember his name, though. But it was a Spanish guy.
What, and you feel like he was better than all the big names you fought? Yeah.
It's weird. I fought a lot of big names, but this one guy, I'm telling you, it gave me the most trouble. It gave me the most trouble. I felt, put it like this, it gave me the most trouble where I felt like after 10 rounds of boxing, I thought that I was like, I don't know if I won or not. Like, that's how tough it was.
So, what, you beat him on points over 10?
Yeah, I beat him on points. You know, maybe, I don't know if it was just I wasn't there, but he was a tough little kid. Yeah, tough guy.
I'm trying to look. I can't really find anyone with a Spanish-sounding name that you beat over 10.
Yeah.
But we'll have to.
So, yep.
We'll revisit that. I want to ask you also, Sharmba, what was your most satisfying win throughout all the wins in your career, all 57?
Probably my championship fight, my first one, because after I saw the fight with him and Frankie Rand, I just knew I could do it. I knew I could. I was like, man, he got the blood. Like, are you serious? I almost begged Don to give me that fight. And I think that was probably the most satisfying win.
No, I think so as well. The first night you became champion.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll never forget
Yeah.
it. Who do you feel was the hardest puncher that you was ever in the ring with?
Rocky Lockridge.
Yeah, I can believe that. He could hit.
Yeah, you lying about that one.
and I want to ask you this. I like to ask this one. Was there anyone that you wished you'd have had the chance to fight but never got the chance to fight? I'm going to throw Ricky Hatton's name in there. Is it him? Is it someone else?
Zab,
yeah.
That's the only fight that was there, but the reason why is because we just he and I was the show people, the two southpaws, the two slick southpaws at the time. He had his way, I had my way, and it was a New York, D.C. kind of a thing. And everybody wanted to see that fight, so we could have made plenty of money. And we could have did, it could have been a spectacular fight. And, he didn't, if at the time, I think if Zab was a little bit more, what I want to say, business-like he is now, then he probably could see it. We wasn't enemies or anything like that. I always, anything I said about him or anything like that was always in the name of, we're trying to promote this. We have to promote. It was like an Ali. Ali ain't going to hate you, but he going to make you want to fight him.
Yeah. No, I understand.
And he's just trying to promote, and it's all about business, right?
Yeah, nothing personal.
Yeah, nothing personal, anything like that. It was just all about business, and we could have that fight there. It could have been amazing, but we just missed the mode on it.
Yeah. And this next question, my favorite answer is when people say no, and the question is, do you have any regrets in your boxing career? If you could go back and change anything, you said that you were looking at perhaps retiring after the Floyd fight. You were looking at retiring after the Vince Phillips win. Would you go back and change anything? Have you got any regrets?
Probably not. Probably my regrets probably more so in my amateur careers. Probably as good as I was as an amateur, I probably didn't. Well, in boxing, period. Let me start with boxing, period. I probably, as a kid, like I tell kids nowadays, put 125 or 150% into boxing if you're going to do it, if that's what you want to do. Because I never did. I never put all. God gave me a gift, and I used it to the best of my ability. I cut corners, a lot of corners, with what I did, and I still accomplished a lot of things that people would love to accomplish or try to accomplish. But if I could do it over again, I probably would put all my time, mind, body, everything in it, because I probably could have been way better. My problem is that I knew how to do too many other things. I was in college, I was one person that I was more in tune with school and business stuff, and I know how to do carpentry work. I do electronical work. It's so many other things I can do other than just boxing. I never was just really focused on boxing. And I always tried to do the thing of, if this doesn't work for me, then what do I have to fall back on? And I probably worked on that more so than what I was doing. So if I could change anything, I probably would put everything into it, and if maybe it turned out different, maybe it may not have.
Oh, that's really interesting, man. That's really interesting. That's quite amazing that you can do all these other things.
But I
Not a lot of people
I tell kids every day, if this is if you want to do anything, if you want to do any kind of sport, anything like that, put your all into it. Don't halfway do it. Don't let the females get in your way. They're going to be there after. Trust me.
Definitely.
Don't let the drugs get out there. Don't let the streets get in. They're going to be there after. Yeah. Pick and choose your real friends. Stuff like that. But yeah. That's all I probably regret. And I say it all the time. I say it all the time. If I'd put my all into it, I don't know what I probably could have done.
No, I mean, you achieve great things. Anyway, Sharmba, it's frightening to think what would have happened if you'd have put everything into it, actually. But no. You said after the Paul Williams fight you were done. You were absolutely done. Did you ever think about coming back, though, after that at all, or were you just completely retired?
No. It's funny. I got an offer with Ricky Hatton. Like, they offered something with Ricky Hatton to come over and fight. And for a lot of money, I'm not doing none of that. I'm not going back. Listen, I didn't, when I was ready to retire, I was ready. I was done. I was done way before that. So I was really done. I was totally done. I didn't want to see any more training camps. I don't want to eat right anymore. I don't want to do any. I don't want to get up early anymore. I don't want to do any of that anymore. So it's weird. Like now I do boxing fitness stuff. So I do training classes and stuff like that. And I stayed in shape, but I eat everything. I can eat anything I want, but guess what? I'm working out Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. So I can eat anything I want, and I love it.
Good for you, my man. Good for you.
I love it, and I'm still in shape. And it's funny because my wife always tells me, Sharmba, if my man told me the other day, he was like, Sharmba, if you ate right, you'll be cut up because you already cut up and you're not even eating right. I said, yeah, I know, but I don't want to be real cut up. I'm 50 years old, man. Look, I look fine for 50.
You do. You certainly do. Sharmba, I was going to ask you what you're up to now. You mentioned there that you do fitness training. You speak to kids a lot. What else are you up to? Have you got a lounge?
I'm in the. Nah, yeah. Well, my wife and I, we own the lounge since 1999, and we still have it in Baltimore. Because she's from Baltimore, so I'm out here to Baltimore, and I'm in the car business. I was in the car business when I was in college, so I did an internship at a car dealership. So I wanted to get back into the business, and I got back into it. I'm ready to get out of it though, but yeah, I'm in the car business. I did everything in the car business, from sales to finance to being a used car manager, all that stuff. So I went back to sales because it gives me the flexibility to do what I want.
It sounds like you're doing well, and it's keeping you busy, which is good, Sharmba, especially post boxing. I want to ask you this.
Oh yeah, got to keep up with my crazy kids. My kids they all in college, and Some of them graduated, some of them graduating now, and so it's absolutely great, man.
Fantastic, and that leads me in perfectly to the next question, and it's an important question, Sharmba. Are you a happy man now? Are you happy? You say you're 50 years of age. You got everything going, lots of busy stuff. Are you happy these days?
Oh, absolutely, man. It's a blessing just to like, I sit back sometimes and I just think, man, I accomplished a whole lot. Like, I've accomplished a whole lot in life, and it's weird. Like, I leave when I die, I'm leaving a legacy. Like, I'll be ever in the history books. I'll be always in the history books.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing. Not a lot of people could say that.
Definitely, man. But I'm pleased to hear that you're happy. That's the most important thing in life, being happy, Sharmba, of course. And it's great that you
absolutely, and to be able to see 50, I'm able to see 50, man, and it's great. Yeah, with health intact, and I still get in there and spar sometimes, stuff like that. So
Okay.
And it's weird because guys be like, man, you ain't lost nothing. But I tell them, I say, man, once I get into that rhythm, it's hard to get me out. So I start beating these little kids up. It's like, man, maybe I should come back. Maybe I should come back and grab some of these millions that they're giving away now.
Oh, gosh. But Sharmba, my final real question for you now. I like to ask this one to everyone that we speak to from overseas. Any era, who do you think would be your favourite UK fighter? Any era.
Any era? My UK fighter. Whew.
I've got a feeling you're not going to say Ricky Hatton.
No, I thought no. Ricky was really good. Ricky was really, really good. He would. I probably wasn't Eubanks one of the European fighters.
Yeah. Chris Eubank, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chris Eubanks was really good, but Ricky Hatton would. I probably had to say, man. Now I think about it, I don't know. Well, Ricky Hatton would probably be up there with me because he was one of those fast fighters, like fast and always in shape and, put punches together good and stuff like that.
He wasn't always in shape between fights, but
well, you're absolutely correct, and I've heard that, but I was a fat boy. Listen, man, I would go. My training, I always used to say, and Buddy used to be like, man, what the hell? Why you never can't come in training camp in shape? I would literally get up to 170, 175, and get all the way back down to 140 pounds. But the key with me is that I didn't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do any of that stuff. It was just pizzas and burgers and, fried some of the fried stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, like even right now, I can jump on the scale. I'm at 179, 180. So yeah.
But no, you boxed on some cards with some of our best fighters ever, really. Obviously, you boxed on a Ricky Hatton card in Manchester. You boxed on the same card as Nigel Benn. You boxed on the same card as Lennox Lewis, like we say. So
right.
Yeah.
Lennox was good. Lennox was good. I think just in that era of the heavyweights that he came with, they just bounced around too. Like nobody was a clear champion other than Mike. Mike was the real top dog probably in that era. And then when he ended up fighting those guys, Mike was on his way out. They would in his heyday, they would have never beat. They never ever came close. He would have knocked Lennox out.
Okay. So favorite UK fighter?
It's just like I tell people. I think my wife and I was talking last night, and I said eras. I said, okay, So me coming up in Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler area, I said they would have kicked my ass.
That's honest.
They would have kicked my ass. And that's the honest truth. They would have kicked my ass in that era. That era was a beast. Yeah. In that weight class. Can you imagine? Man, we would have been battling each other, like for real, battling each other. And that's why I tell her, I say, Floyd came up in a great era. In the era with me, Kostya Tszyu, all those in that era, when we was Phillips, all of us together, guess what? If Floyd was in our weight at that time, he wouldn't be undefeated right now. I don't think. What do you think?
I don't know, man. He was good at selecting when to fight who, you know?
My point exactly. See, selective. We wasn't selective guys.
No.
We fought each, like, we picked out the best out of each one of us, and we fought each other, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
We didn't pick and choose. Am I right?
No, not at all. That's what I mean, yeah.
And that's why I tell people, like, he came up in a great era, like right after us. Like, he snuck in that. He came up in a great era. In his era, best out there. Now, if you tell me he fights me when I'm 20-something and 0 or 30-something and 0 or 30-something and 1 or 2, he don't win. You're getting a whole different fight.
Yeah.
So it's the era, and like I say, you know, if I'd have came in Ray Leonard's era, I would have been in there. But would I have won or would I not? I don't know. I don't know, because Ray was the prettiest, angriest dude in the ring that I know.
But yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And Marvin was just a hard-hitting, just a nice southpaw, you know, a great guy, like, you know. And then you're talking about Roberto Duran. Good gracious. So their era in that weight class was that. My era in my weight class, in that 140-pound weight class, it was killer. We had all killers in that weight class. Nobody wanted to fight in that weight class, right, in my era.
Yeah. But the original question, though, Sharmba, favorite UK fighter, Chris Eubank?
Probably had Chris Eubanks. Probably, I always liked him.
Yeah, definitely. That's a popular answer when I
always liked him.
Yeah, a lot of people say.
Yeah, I always liked him. Really slick. I always liked him.
Yeah.
But Ricky Hatton was right up there with him too.
Yeah, another popular answer. And just finally, Sharmba, if you've got any closing words to anyone that's listening to this, anyone that ends up listening to this, you know, especially from the UK, obviously the fans over here, you witnessed it yourself when you went to Manchester. People over here really know boxing. What's your message to your supporters,
Absolutely.
your fans this side of the Atlantic?
Hey, I'm doing great. I hope that boxing gets back to what it is. I want to come to Manchester. You can bring me out there anytime. I'll play soccer for you or something. I don't know. but no, I love you guys, and thank you for having me on the show, man.
Listen, Sharmba, it's been an absolute pleasure. Believe me, it really has been. Going over your entire career has been a complete delight. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you the absolute best for the future, and hopefully we can speak again soon, my man.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 266 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the former WBA Super Lightweight World Champion, Mr. Sharmba Mitchell. A massive thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning into this week's podcast once again. Remember, if you can, to send in a trivia question for Eddie Chambers. We need more, certainly. It can be really easy ones. It doesn't really really matter, to be honest. Just send some in. That will make my job a lot easier. There has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Karim Guerfi versus Lee McGregor for the European title. That's been rescheduled. That's going to now be taking place on January 22nd in Wakefield. And in other news, Lerone Richards has parted ways with Frank Warren. He's now signed a promotional contract with Matchroom Sports. I wish Lerone all the best with that, because he hasn't really had it easy since turning pro in terms of promotional stuff. He was inactive early on in his career for a couple of years due to promotional issues, and now he's left Frank Warren, so hopefully things are bright for him in the future. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Remember to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about the podcast, and we shall see you all again next week.